Welcome on in, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Utes. Today we are going to be doing the positional group confidence rankings for Utah's 2025 football team. Kind of how this will work is it'll be a rating scale of 1 to 10. If you think Utah's group is elite, or close to the top of the Big 12, it'll be a 10 for you on the confidence ranking. One of the worst units in the Big 12, or something you don't have any confidence in, it will be a 1. We'll be going through every single position, giving them our rankings and our breakdown. Let's start with the running back room on offense. This obviously is a completely new room, getting in a lot of transfers here. We got Wayshawn Parker, true freshman from Washington State. Nakiri Rogers from New Mexico, followed his OC, Jason Beck, of course. A few other people in the room, guys like Daniel Bray, Green. Yeah, lots of people. Landon, what do you think about the running back room, just on your initial take?
I'm pretty excited about this room. I don't know if we have like a Tavion Thomas or Zach Moss in this room. I mean, Wayshawn Parker could totally prove me wrong, but I think we have some really solid guys. And I even like the guys behind Wayshawn and Naquari, who I think are going to be kind of the number 1 and 2. Just a lot of versatility. I think it will be kind of a running back by committee year, but still, I honestly think they still will be very effective.
Yeah, I agree. Wayshawn definitely is like the shining light in this running back room. He definitely adds a lot more confidence on my end. Just seeing his explosive year last year at Washington State as a true freshman, it's really exciting, especially in a team that succeeded pretty well and they exceeded a lot of expectations. I'm excited to see a lot of the running backs. I think Tanner brought up Daniel Bray. He's someone that I think can be really exciting. Watching him in the spring game, he has a lot of energy and a lot of explosiveness that I think we have lacked in the running back room since Zach Moss, since Tavion, and so this will allow us to kind of be that dominant running force again. I'm hoping this group really works out. I probably give them personally like my confidence scale. I probably have them at a 6 to a 7. I'd probably go more towards a 6. So I'll say a 6. I think there's a lot of question marks, but there's also a lot of like exciting pieces that could really pan out.
Yeah, so still above average as far as Big 12 rankings go. Yeah, I think the Wayshawn Parker thing is interesting because obviously he was a true freshman last year, played really well at Wazoo. Something that really, makes me happy or excited to see him in this system is that he played with also a rushing threat at quarterback at, John Mateer at Washington State. So pairing up with like another dynamic rusher like Devon Dampier, I mean, I feel like we could see similar production this year. And honestly, if we got similar production, I would be pretty happy. I do think that it's not a one-man room, like Landon said. I do think it is kind of by committee where, Naquari Rogers is going to get quite a few carries, I would think, similar to his usage at New Mexico, where I thought he performed well. He ran super hard. So I think I'll go 7. I think I'm a little higher than Ethan on it because I think that there is production there. It's not, one-man show like Mekhi Bernard last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for my ranking, I realized I totally forgot to even give a number. I'm feeling right in like the 6 to 7 territory. I'm going to lean 7 just because Wayshawn was a true freshman last year. And usually people have a sophomore jump. And so I could see Wayshawn even having a better year than he did last year.
Yeah.
Just to talk about Wayshawn a little bit more, I mean, something that he does so well also with being a run threat at quarterback is that slot where you can just toss him the ball whenever he needs it.
Mm-hmm.
A little backup for Devon. So I think that would be really nice. I think he'll produce really well there.
Yeah, he has very good hands, especially for being like a pretty like built running back. Like he definitely has some power to his run game. He has way above average hands for that kind of archetype of running back.
I mean, 5'10", 206. He's built.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, it's definitely a deeper position than last year. Let's move on to, the guy that'll be handing him the ball, the quarterback room. Obviously, the big star of this room is Devon Dampier, transfer from New Mexico, followed his OC here. Elite rushing threat. He really can run it. He is extremely fast, extremely shifty, 19 rushing touchdowns last year, and really was the most electric player on the field every time he stepped on the field. Behind him, not a ton of experience. True freshman Bird Ficklin, who is a system fit but looks pretty raw to me, as well as Isaac Wilson, who's coming in as a sophomore. Had some flashes last year, I think. I think there is something there still, but, really the focus here is on Dampier.
Yeah, like talking about Dampier, I mean, if he was the starting quarterback, he is the starting quarterback. If it was just that, I'm high 8s, even a 9 for my ranking. But with the question mark of who's behind him, it probably drops it down. I probably have him as an 8 as my confidence. I think Devon Dampier is one of the more premier quarterbacks, at least on paper in the Big 12. Who know, like obviously the transition from G5 to P4 is going to be something we got to look out for. But just watching his tape, I'm excited to see what he can do. And I think having Kim really elevates the room. And so with the question marks behind him, like I said, I think a solid 8 is where I have my confidence for the Big 12, for the quarterbacks in this for the Utes.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I really like Devon Dampier as well. And there's questions behind him. You have true freshmen, you have people that haven't played a snap. I like the eventual talent of like Bird Ficklin, Zerbrug, even Isaac Wilson. But if Dampier were to go down early, I think we could be in a super rocky situation. But I'm not going to let that knock the room too much, because especially in the NIL era, what teams really do have like, oh man, I feel great about my backup quarterback. That's not
that's
really
so true.
It's not really a thing where you're like, oh man, yeah, like we're still going to get 9 wins even if he gets injured. Like, I don't think any team really has that. And so if that is like a main factor for you in being low on the QB room, I think there's some validity to that, especially with Utah's history. But for me, I'm not going to let it knock it too far. I'm going to give this room an 8. I'm really high on Dampier, and I think being paired with your offensive coordinator is a huge boon for Dampier and the offense in general. I think he's going to perform very well this season. So I'm giving him an 8.
Yeah, I think that's such a critical point. The OC coming over, Dampier's not learning a new system. He's the vet in this system, teaching everyone else. We saw Witt at media days really talk about, how difficult it is to put in a brand new offense, because really there's no concepts here that are kind of holdovers from the Ludwig era. It's a completely different style of offense. And so if we were breaking in a new offense and a new quarterback and, brand new running back and wide receiver rooms, in essence, I think that would be really tough. So having someone like Dampier, experience in the system, electric, really helps. The big flaw, of course, with Dampier is kind of his accuracy. That's what everyone's seen. I do think he can improve there. It seemed to me last year, his windup was a little long for his throwing motion. It does look like, if you go by the spring game, that he shortened that a little bit. And I think that, with an O-line this good, I think we could see that completion percentage rise. So yeah, I'm going to go an 8 as well. 8's across the board. And while I think that the Big 12 is really deep at QBs, there's really not any QBs that you look at and you're like, wow, that guy is like unstoppable. He's totally elite. This is not the Pac-12 with Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, I'm probably Cam Ward. Yeah, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. Like, it's not like
goes on and on forever.
It's not exactly like that. I'm not saying the Big 12 QBs are bad. I'm saying there's a huge depth of really great QBs, but maybe not too many that fall into the elite category.
Exactly.
It's kind of what college football is this year. There's not that one quarterback that's like leaps and bounds above everybody else. I mean, you got Klubnik, you got those other guys, but I think that's a good point.
Yeah. So basically Dampier, I think, compares favorably to most QBs in the Big 12. He's like at least very close to their level. Let's
top 5.
Top 5. There's so many quarterbacks that top 5, top 8. It's hard to rank them specifically for me. Let's move on to the wide receiver room. Obviously, this is the room on the team that I think there's the most questions about. Do you want to start us off here, Landon?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much turnover here at the wide receiver room. I'm pretty sure the only holdover is Zipperer from these last year's teams that had any receptions at all. And
I think Calderella maybe a few too.
I don't know if did he have a reception last year though?
He did. I remember him catching some passes in the Utah State game.
Yeah, it really just depends on how. I'm excited for Ryan Davis coming from New Mexico with Beck. he's a really solid all-around player, and he's someone that knows the scheme. And so in my mind, I think that he probably is going to start just because of familiarity and experience. I think he could have a good year numbers-wise. There's a couple guys like Nate Johnson, as well as Tobias Merriweather, that are like complete unknowns right now because of either their injury history or they're just switching to the position. I don't know. Historically, Utah wide receiver rooms have not been super great. And so I'm going to hedge my bet a little bit this year. I'm going to give it like a 3, which might sound low, or it might sound high to you, depending on what you think about this wide receiver room. But I just think that these guys need to prove it. There's no one proven.
With like Josh Beck's system, this is like mind. There's like Lyman said, there's so many question marks, so many guys coming in that just are not in the system. We've never seen them play. I mean, you might watch a little bit of Creed Whitmore at Mississippi State. You might see some Tobias Merriweather, but nothing too crazy. I mean, it's to the point where I get excited watching Carvalho, the true freshman, small guy from Hawaii at the spring game. Like, oh, he might start. Like, who knows? Like, there's so many weapons that are so many question marks. I'm a little bit lower than Landon. I'd have him at 2. There's just so many situations that could go wrong for Utah. There's a few people that if they break out, the room looks a lot better. But that's not really happened for Utah in the last decade. So I'm not super confident in the ability to break out somebody this year.
Yeah, I think when you look at this room, there's just really nothing that you know for sure you can depend on. Because all of these wide receivers, yeah, Tobias Merriweather, former 4-star, Notre Dame, Cal, has talent, that's clear. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field with injury. You can say similar things about, every single wide receiver in this room, basically. But, like, the truth is, like, none of them have shown that yet. Like, there's a reason that, people are down on this wide receiver room, or that, maybe there isn't, a consensus number 1 guy yet. It's just because they haven't separated themselves. They just need to show it. So I think it's really, really tough to have confidence in something that you just haven't seen. I do think there's potential there. There always is. But if you were from the future and you told me, oh, like, Utah's offense disappoints this year, the number 1 reason that would pop into my head was, oh, we just didn't have enough wide receiver talent. People could stack the box. We just weren't able to create those explosive plays over the top, and we were really contained. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think I don't know, like, if it's going on this scale of like how you would rank it as far as the Big 12 tier, I'm not sure that there's really a room of wide receivers in the Big 12 that I think Utah's is better than. So I think I can't really go higher than a 2.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go 2.
Yeah, that's totally fair. It's like really proven production. I think it really is the worst statistically.
I do think like having a quarterback like Devon Dampier will really help this wide receiver room. I mean, he's such a threat on his legs that they'll have to be open at some point. Like, they have to. Like, it's just the logical explanation. Like, if you're not open, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll look easier than last year too, because at least Jason Beck, like, he will throw screens, like, he'll throw over the middle, do like a slant, there will be catches to be had in this offense for sure. And it'll look a bit easier, I think, than Ludwig's system.
Like, there's some coverages that like defenses will have to play with, like deep safeties and like corners playing way off, that it doesn't matter how bad this receiver is, he will be open for like a quick pass or a slant. And it just matters the play call. And so some of that, I think, is where these guys can get into rhythm.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up one person. Like, I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on Larry Simons from Southern Miss. I mean, we've heard some good things about him, that he might be a wide receiver 1, 2. He's going to be starting most likely. What's your guys' thoughts on him and what he can bring to the team?
Yeah,
I mean, I think he just needs to prove it. I mean, he was on 1-11 Southern Miss,
Yeah, exactly. It really is just proving it, because you're playing at a lower level of competition. And like, yeah, you were pretty good for your team, but like your team was not very good, and like their passing game wasn't very good overall. So it just, like, the potential's there, but gotta see.
He's one of those guys where it's like the build is intriguing as well. He's kind of has that like typical like elite wide receiver in the NFL build, 6'1", 190. I mean, like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I'm not saying he's or anything like that, but like I get excited when I see somebody. It's like, okay, like maybe he has some skill sets that are similar to those guys. I doubt it, but hopefully. So he's someone that I'm excited to see. But then, obviously you got the other guys that are going to be intriguing to watch.
Yeah. One part of like hope for the wide receivers, I think, is Nate Johnson. Like he does have that elite athleticism. We know he was here previously as quarterback. Now he's making the switch to wide receiver. When you look at kind of New Mexico's offense under Jason Beck, there was a guy named Jacobs, number 21, where they used him kind of, as a halfback, kind of as a receiver. They'd throw deep to him, they'd give him jet sweeps. Sometimes they'd run him on the option, and he really, performed well, I thought, in like his time. And so I think we could use a similar role for Nate Johnson because like he has the size to be, involved in the option or a jet sweep, and he also has the speed to, go in a go ball down the seam. We kind of saw that in the spring game, one that was, very, very close to being completed that was just barely broken up. So I think that could be an interesting role for him.
Yeah, New Mexico has some actually really nice, I've watched quite a few of their games. They have some really nice deep shot concepts that I think Nate could really dominate in, where they have Nate lined up more in like a halfback role / like slot receiver, and they get a linebacker on him on the motion, and then it's just a go ball right down the middle. And that's worked for them many times, actually. They had a lot of big completions off that.
If you know us at all, we're the biggest Nate Johnson supporters in all of Utah football.
Yes.
We are the biggest fans of this man. Not talking about Nate is kind of something that we will never not do.
Yes.
So he's the shining light, like the way Sean Parker was for me in the wide receiver running back. The guy in the wide receiver room that, like, if we have success, that's where it's coming from in my mind. Him or Merriweather, just the skill set of Merriweather could be really elite as well.
Mm-hmm. I do think there are reasons for optimism in the wide receiver room. I just think the confidence rating is low because guys have to play better than they ever have.
Yeah.
And so like you have to stack up a few of those guys, kind of having career years, get to a place where your wide receiver room is, I guess, productive or even passable. Okay, let's move on to the tight ends, kind of related to the wide receivers, pass catchers as well, also blockers. Some big news at the tight end spot. Otto Tia, obviously former wide receiver for Utah State, came to Utah in the transfer portal, is now being listed as tight end, and that's where he'll primarily work. Kind of other standouts in the room include Hunter Andrews, who, I've heard compared to Keithy as far as like build and athleticism, and then Dallin Bentley, who's kind of more of your traditional tight end where, maybe a bit more inline, kind of Cole Fotheringham type. Ethan, what are your thoughts on the tight end room for Utah this year?
I'm optimistic. It's a weird one because this is probably one of the least talented tight end rooms we've had, but also might be one of the most like versatile, if that makes sense. I mean, you talked about Hunter Andrews. He's going to be at that tweener role that like Brant Keithy was. Uber athletic. He's not the biggest guy on the field, but he's going to be a stud. I mean, 6'3", 235. He's pretty solid built. I mean, I think he was on the defensive side of the ball when he was recruited. I can't remember, or he was running back. I can't remember exactly what he was, but he moved over to tight end, and all we've heard is good things about him. And I'm hoping him and Audoteo kind of see most of the play at the tight end room. Like, as much as I love Dallin Bentley, he's a Utah man for sure. He's kind of just the ancient history, the older tight end room, and I love the more prototypical, the new style, not your everyday tight end. Someone I'm actually kind of excited for. I don't know if we're going to, but JJ Buchanan, he was one of the highest rated recruits last year for Utah. I mean, 6'4", he was a 4-star tight end, one of the top tight ends in the country. I mean, yeah. I don't know if
I think he maybe came in as a receiver and then they moved him to tight end potentially, but interesting player there. That's a good shout out.
Because I mean, there's not a lot of 4-stars on the pass. We don't have a lot of 4-star pass catchers, and if he can kind of shine, he'll be really good. I think he was the highest recruit in Utah last year according to 24/7. That's something to think about. So I'm excited to see what he can do if he gets a lot of play or if any play at all. So my confidence for the tight end room is 5. I'm like, they're in the middle of the road. Like, I don't think we'll see them as much as we did in Andy system, which I think is a plus. But I'm excited to see when they do get the ball, what they can do, because I think they'll be pretty electric.
Yeah, I mean, my hot take, I'm going to start out focusing on Hunter Andrews. My hot take is he'll be top 4 on the team in total offensive yards. So like Dampier will be number 1. I mean, certainly. And then like maybe Wayshawn Parker, a receiver, or Hunter Andrews. I think he will finish top 4. I think he is going to have a breakout year, actually. Just looking at
I
his
love that
physicals,
pick.
people are saying that this dude is 240 and he's running a 4.5 flat 40-yard dash. And like he looks like that when he has not played much. I feel like Utah's kind of keeping him on the down low, like purposefully, in order for him not to get these transfer offers and in order to kind of hide him from teams before the season starts. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling that Hunter Andrews is going to get the majority of snaps at tight end and getting like in any of those tight end design plays. And I actually feel really confident with his skill set and ability, even though we haven't seen much experience. So yeah, and then Otto Tia, I actually like Otto Tia. Jason Beck said that he was going to be lining up a lot more in the slot. He's not going to be like a hand in the ground type of tight end. And I think he's a good big catch radius guy. I don't mind it. Dallin Bentley, solid pick, like good blocker. He can be good on those kind of outlet routes. But I'm really high on Hunter Andrews. I'm going to go Utah's tight end room. This might sound crazy. I'm going to go a 7 just because of Hunter Andrews. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the Big 12.
I missed what you said. Sorry, it cut out for me.
Well, what I was saying, I think Hunter Andrews is going to be one of the best players in the Big 12, and I'm going to go a 7.
Nice. Awesome.
To kind of talk about them after Andrews real quick, I was bringing up a little bit. He played running back in high school and then came into Utah as a linebacker. And so he was a linebacker tight end. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the movement of a former Lone Peak quarterback. And I can't remember his name.
Chase Hansen?
Yeah. He just moved everywhere, and he was a stud everywhere. So I'm excited to kind of see what he can do at tight end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you want to get guys that their coach just cannot keep them off the field. They're just so good that they play everywhere because their coach needs them. I think that's a huge positive for Hunter Andrews. Yeah, like Landon, I think this is the offense for Hunter Andrews because we know Beck, he's not going to emphasize the tight end position like Andy Ludwig did. Andy Ludwig liked playing 2 or even 3 or even 4 sometimes tight ends out there. And like, while that's cool sometimes, like it's not an effective strategy for like winning football in 2025. Yeah, like, I mean, if you have Keithy and Kincaid, 2 NFL caliber tight ends, Keithy before his injury, then yeah, I mean, play as many tight ends as you can because those guys are just too talented to keep off the field. Mm-hmm. But especially in a tight end room like we had last year where like there's really not that many standouts, there's no reason to be playing that many tight ends. And so I think Jason Beck will have a way better like grasp on that, and he will play kind of the athletes, kind of the more modern tight end like Hunter Andrews. So I totally agree with Landon. I do envision Hunter Andrews being one of the top targets on the offense this year, and I think he is so talented. With kind of the decreased emphasis on the tight ends in this offense, I would say, the tight ends don't have to do as much to get a high confidence grade for me. So I think I'm honestly going to go 8 because I think we have tight ends for every single scenario. Like there's not like really a scenario on the field where we won't have a tight end that can fit that role that I think can't play well. So I think I'm pretty confident in the tight end position, even though it's going to be de-emphasized a bit.
I think the kind of going back to what Tanner said just there about how it's not going to be emphasized as much, I'm going to change my score from a 5 to a 6. I'm still not uber confident in them, but he brings up a good point. There's just that question mark for me.
Okay, let's move on to the offensive line, the last position group here on offense. I think people are justifiably excited about this offensive line. Utah returns all 5 starters coming back after a year where they were okay last year. I think the offensive scheme in general was the biggest issue for Utah, but the offensive line was okay last year. But I think that with the continuity, with the blue chip development, they have a chance to be like truly elite this year, like, top 10 in the country. What do you think, Landon?
Yeah, I think that this offensive line is going to be an extremely strong unit this year. And people did have questions last year, like, oh man, but these are all the same guys from the previous season and our offense was terrible. And someone actually asked Spencer Fano something along those similar lines, and he was just saying it's about playing complementary football. And I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but the offense was not getting their job done. Even if the O-line was performing perfectly, you couldn't tell because people were not making plays. And so he says this year going in, they're even better than last year. And he thinks he's really confident that this O-line is going to pop. And so for me, I'm giving this one a 10 because I think they're the best unit in the Big 12, personally. I think there's just so much talent. There's so much size, so much versatility, just paired with experience. Like their floor is so high. Like their ceiling, I don't know if I agree with some people on what their ceiling could be. People are really high on this line. I do agree, though, that the floor is very, very high.
I mean, the potential of having 2 first-round tackles in the NFL draft and then having 3 of the most experienced guards and centers, I guess center and guards in the country, it's going to be great. I think kind of jumping on Landon's point, I'm at a 10. They're the best group probably in the Big 12 total. My only thing to kind of give them, I guess, playing a little bit more why they weren't that great last year, if they weren't that great. I mean, it was 8 against 5 every single day, every single down. They could sack the box. They had the wide receivers couldn't do anything, quarterback couldn't do anything. If you saw any struggles in the offensive line last year, at least to me, it had to do with the fact that they were outnumbered and the scheme did not help them, like you guys said. And so a 10, best group. They're going to be great to watch. I'm excited to see them some pancakes this year.
Yeah, I think this is an elite group. I mean, it's top 10 nationally for me. I would say, the continuity is impressive, and especially against a Big 12 where really maybe the only elite defensive line is in Texas Tech. You got to feel pretty good about that, especially with, running quarterback and a running back room. It seems to be, where the weapons are concentrated on Utah's offense. So it's a 10 for me as well, because I think if you're the best offensive line in the Big 12, like, you deserve to have a 10 on the confidence rating. Super excited for, what these guys could be. I hope Spencer Fano and Lomu pull in Olu Fashanu, who was the Penn State offensive lineman who's projected top 5, who came back for another year. Just give us one more year. We need it, right?
We need it.
Yeah.
I mean, senior Devon, senior Nate, senior Merriweather, senior offensive line. Like, woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's. Yeah. Well, you go.
I wanted
Landon.
to touch on one more point. The complementary football that the scheme and offensive line abilities are going to enable us to play this year. Like, I think Spencer Fano, he's an elite zone run blocker. Elite. Best in college, probably. And the amount of zone run we do in this system and the chances he'll have to showcase that skill set. Same with Lomu on the other side. He's also elite at like zone run blocking. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
I mean, the athletic ability of these tackles is outmatched.
Yes.
They have just, I mean, one of the best tackles I've ever seen, or guards, one of the best offensive linemen I've ever seen in Utah is Keaton Bills. I mean, he was, I think he was drafted late rounds a few years back. But Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu do everything he does and better. I mean, just watching Spencer Fano get up the field, watching Lomu get up the field, the counter runs that they can pull it is unheard of, and they are some of the most beautiful football you can watch by watching these guys work. The complement, like Landon said, the complementary football is going to be really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to give overall offensive grade, or do we want to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now. So as far as the overall offensive kind of takeaways, for me, I feel like there's some real synergy there with, the running quarterback and an elite offensive line. I feel like that has the potential to be really good. The question for me is just the weapons. We need multiple people to emerge on the outside, whether that's Hunter Andrews or Nate Johnson or some of the wide receivers that we've seen. That's the thing that I see that takes this defense or maybe prevents them from being great. So as far as confidence on the offense, I'm going to go kind of like a soft 6, kind of like a soft 7, depending on, what we've seen. I think the pieces are there, but I think there are a few flaws as well that prevent me from, saying they're one of the best units in the Big 12.
Definitely. I completely agree with you said. I think a soft 7 to a high 6 is very accurate. For me, the biggest holdback is honestly not our offense. It's our head coach. Will let Beck kind of have that full autonomy, like you said? I'm hoping that happens. I mean, we can switch our offensive coordinator as much as we want, but if Witt has control, it's never going to change. So I'm hoping that's a big change this year. I mean, if it happens, we'll see at UCLA. This could change greatly. I could go to a freaking 8 if I wanted, or 9. If they put up 40 against UCLA at the Rose Bowl. But for me, the biggest question mark is, will some pieces emerge? And we don't know if that can happen, but if it does, the offense, sky's the limit. But right now, I think a 6 or 7, like Tanner said, is very, very accurate.
Yeah, I don't want to rehash the same points too many times, but for the exact same reason as you guys, I'm at a 7.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, this was a really, really strong unit this year, even with no offensive help. Morgan Scally, kind of a wizard, glad to have him back, glad he hasn't left. Let's start on the defensive end. Obviously, we lost Van Fillinger, Connor O'Toole, maybe a few other guys to graduation. The star of the group coming back to me is Logan Fano. He played good last year. I think he had 2.5 sacks. Coming off, I think, was it an ACL or was it an Achilles? It was
ACL,
one of the two.
ACL.
It was ACL. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people say that's a 2-year injury. I'm expecting him to have even more burst, even more power this year. He's really the standout on the defensive end for me. And it's a Morgan Scally defense. I trust that we are going to get production in the pass rush, production in the run block. So as far as the defensive ends go, it's probably an 8 for me. 8 out of 10 confidence.
I'm in a very similar boat. My biggest concern is outside of Logan Fano, who's going to be the person I go to a lot. Every time I think is Lance Holtzclaw. I mean, he is a transfer out of Washington. For me, like he kind of gives me that like speed rusher that Utah hasn't had for a while. Maybe Connor O'Toole is like the prototype kind of vibe with the size he has. He's redshirt junior coming from Washington, a real school. But then you also got some other guys. I mean, John Henry Daly is another guy you can talk about. Paul Fitzgerald, he's been with us for a while. And then I think one more guy, Cash Dillon. He's a good out of Corner Canyon. Came same time with Isaac last year. Didn't play last year, but he's a redshirt freshman, or he might have played a few snaps here and there. But that's my biggest concern is who's going to be the number 2. With that, I probably have them at a 7 just because having that one defensive end that's a stud in Logan, I'm hoping that somebody can step up and take that pressure off of him so they can't just take out Logan every single time.
Yeah, I like how this defensive end room looks, actually. I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago before Logan Fano's injury, him and Jonah Ellis were an insane duo off the end on both sides. There were some crazy stats. I don't recall the exact numbers, but Logan Fano was running away from everyone else in the country pretty much on like initial pressures, like moving the quarterback. So he would move the quarterback over to Jonah Ellis, who also was a beast, and Jonah Ellis would get the sack. So I think Logan Fano is going to have his best year yet this year, truthfully. I think he's going to be an absolute beast. And then outside of that, I just like, I guess you call it the DNA of this defensive end room. Like Paul Fitzgerald, a lot of experience. 2023, he played at Utah State, 46 tackles, 8 sacks. Played good for Utah in 2024. John Henry Daly, solid talent. Cash Dillon, high recruit, a lot of talent. And then we have transfers from Washington and Oregon with Lance Holtzclaw and Jackson Jones. So I like the DNA of this room, like I'm happy with that. Star rusher, some transfers from Washington and Oregon, high recruit, guy with experience. Like it feels like this room's going to produce.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that it's really good to have that depth as well. Because, Utah, we like to rotate these defensive ends a lot. We play 5, sometimes 6 deep on the defensive end just to keep people super, super fresh. Yeah, did you have a rating, Landon?
Yeah, I might have said at the beginning, but I'm an 8 on this room. I'm feeling good about this room.
Awesome. Great.
I would say the biggest thing about Utah, I mean, if we're probably going to defensive tackles, it's the same thought. Utah will always retool there. That's one thing that I'm always confident in. So, I mean, if there's any group that I trust Morgan Scalley and I trust Luther Ellis and these edges and these tackles to retool.
Yeah. So let's talk about the defensive tackles. Obviously the two projected starters are Dallas Fakalahi and Aliki Vamahi, which when you look at it in its face, I think those two are really, really quite good as far as, top end talent goes and like what they'll produce. Where I'm worried is the depth here, because as we've seen, we use a lot of defensive tackles. Last year, we had so many injuries in the defensive tackle room where I just don't feel like we could survive that same level of injury that we've had the last couple of years. Like they need to take it easy in fall camp or something, because we need these guys help. Because if we go past those top two, all of a sudden we're relying on a lot of freshmen and a lot of sophomores to really step up. Jonah Liea, Semi Taulanga, a few other guys here, Carson Kafusi, of course. But yeah, I mean, it gets the talent. Not the talent. The talent is really good throughout, but the experience gets thin if they picked up any kind of injuries here. So for me, I mean, the top end talent is good enough that I'll say they're above average, but it's going to be like a soft 6 just because of the depth. Do you want to go, Landon?
Yeah, I'm in the exact similar boat to you. There is 6 for me as well. That would be my rating. I like Dallas Fakalahi, but even he's pretty unproven. Like he looked great against UCF, but that's one game. And then Vamahi's had injury concerns. So I'm going to go 6 here just because I do trust the recruiting and evaluation process a lot for Utah at defensive tackle, and I think our coaching is exceptional. So I think they'll be an above average unit, but I don't see them reaching like insane heights or anything. I think they're just going to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, 6, not to really add on a lot. I really like the size in the the defensive tackle room. A lot of big bodies that I think will allow a lot of rotations that could work really well for Utah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, this is the position to me on the defense that is the most vulnerable to injury. It's the one that has to stay healthy, and that, if people are running all over us in October, it would be because of an injury here, probably, is what it would be.
Looking at the depth chart, somebody that we didn't talk about that I think could potentially be pretty decent, Dylan Battle, freshman from LSU. I mean, 6'2", 313. Same size as Dallas Fakalahi. So, I mean,
yeah, that's an interesting one. I think he's a true freshman as well. I think he transferred after spring. Like he did one spring with LSU and then transferred here, I'm pretty sure.
So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for the room. There's a lot of, like I said, I mean, Utah's always been able to rotate and rebuild that line. And so, well, I'm excited to see what these guys with a bunch of big boys can do.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the linebacker group. Obviously, the top 3 is pretty set here, and it's a dang good top 3. Lander Barton, Jonnu Hall, and Levani Damuni. Damuni obviously missed all of last year with a pretty significant injury, so, we'll wait and see what he has left in the tank. But as far as Barton and Jonnu Hall, especially Jonnu Hall, he came on so strong last year. I thought he was, for pretty large stretches of a lot of games, the best player on our defense. Like, he was that elite. He was making tackles left and right. He was identifying the play. He was like, see ball, get ball. He was exactly what you want to see from a linebacker. What do you think, Landon?
I think I have this room at a 9, truthfully. I'm really happy and I'm high on the upside of this room. Lander Barton was playing pretty much the entire season with a steel plate in his cleat to stabilize because of the ankle and foot injuries he had been having. So he should be looking much faster, kind of back to his old self. Even with that, though, he did lead the team in tackles with 72 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 2 ints, and 1 forced fumble. So it's not a bad year.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm really excited. People forget how good Damuni was. In 2023, he was leading the team in tackles before he tore his Achilles. And that was a team with Lander Barton and Karene Reed, 2 elite linebackers. So I'm excited to have him back. And then just the development of Jonathan Hall. He reminds me of like a Devin Lloyd, and I really think he's going to reach a super high peak. So that's why I've got this room at an 8.
I think the biggest thing with this room is going to be health. So if Demooney and Lander can stay healthy, obviously there's some issues with that in the past. This room can be really incredible. Like you talked about Lander, his stats last year were great, kept the pick six streak alive, which is all we can ask for. And so I think Lander, he's gonna definitely better. Last year we saw, like Landon said, that steel foot really held him back. And so he's going to be my standout in this linebacker. I think he's going to be one of the best the linebackers in the conference or even in the country. John Hall, Landon hit it on the head, and I give this room honestly a 9. They're probably my second most confident for the team. The experience they have, and then behind those guys, just Cypress Polu, 4-star last year. Christian Thacker was a 4-star for most of the year. He's an 89 rating. They got some good youth behind him, so it's going to be exciting to see this linebacker room do a lot of damage.
Yeah, this room for me is a 10. Not only do they have elite star power at the linebacker, I also think they have phenomenal depth. Matiaki Helu, Kanai Lopes, Cyrus Polu, true freshman Christian Thatcher. There's so many guys in this room that, if you picked up an injury to one or two guys, I feel like they could slot in and still be good. Like, not even, like, you wouldn't even be like a weakness. It would just be like they'd be good, not elite, like how the current starters are. So for my money, this is the best linebacker core in the Big 12.
Yeah, the only thing that kept me from naming this to a 9 or 10 is that Lander Barton is coming back from a decently serious injury, and his movement did look hampered, so we kind of need to see it to believe it. And then Demooney tore his Achilles in 2023. That's serious. Like, tearing your Achilles is very serious. And so my 8 is kind of baked in with an assumption that maybe they're not as peak as you might be thinking,
Right, almost like a Keithy last year type of thing.
Yes, I think they'll be good, but I'm not confident this will be like their best years ever or anything.
Okay. The reason why they're not a 10 is because I'm holding only 110 for one position group.
Yeah, let's move on to the corner room. Obviously, lost Cam Calhoun to Bama, lost Samaya Vaughn to graduation/NFL, bringing back Smith Snowden, of course, at nickel, bringing back Scooby Davis, of course, at corner, and then filling with a few different transfers, all from, JUCO, and then one from, I think, Texas A&M. So this was pretty elite pass defense last year, honestly. I think Snowden was really good. I think Scooby Davis was, honestly, he was so good. So I think that if they can figure out kind of their two other guys that can play even average, I think this is an above average room. I think this is a pretty good pass defense. And I would say it's like, I have like 7. Like, confidence would be 7 out of 10 on it, where I think it's one of the better units 12 as far as pass defense.
Yeah, I might have a surprising take to you guys. I think this is a 9 or 10. I think this could be the best defensive corners in the Big 12. I think with Smith Snowden, Elijah Davis, adding Donovan Saunders from Texas A&M, Blake Cotton, he's had 3 years of good play already from UC Davis. We have so much size and so much physicality out there, and all the reports are that both Smith and Elijah Davis have taken an absolute step in coverage. They're completely just like dogs. So I feel really good for cornerbacks. Did you say, is this just corners or is this safety as well?
This is just corners. Yeah.
Just corners. I'm going to go 9 on just corners. I feel that good actually about where we're at as a team.
Right below, I think I have them at an 8. I think the linebacker room is a little bit better. I think depth and the sure starters we have kind of bring them up for me. But probably the 4 guys I think stand out for me: Smith Snowden, Don Sanders, a sophomore transfer from Auburn. All 3 of those guys are 6 foot or taller. Don Sanders 6'4". The size in this room for corners is their NFL type size. There's some really, really awesome things to see, especially just through measurements. So I'm really excited for this corner room. I think the biggest is going to be Smith. He's going to be the number 1 guy, and I'm hoping if he can step up and be that one that we haven't had for kind of that Clark Phillips type, the Jalen Johnson type, this room could be the best in the Big 12, best on the team.
Awesome. Yeah, let's move over to the safety room. Obviously, the starters are Teo Johnson and Rabbit Evans, which, I mean, that's like a star-studded duo. I thought Rabbit Evans was so good last year, and Teo has, he's been a heat-seeking missile all the time. Really, Teo's only flaw has been the tackling. He's had, a few missed tackles throughout his career, but everything else has been A+. Backing them up, we have Nate Ritchie, who I know there's some people that are not fans of him, and Jackson Benny as well, who looked really great in the spring game, and there's been positive reports about him. So, I think this is, every unit on the defense is really strong. Like there's a reason why this is nationally elite year after year. And I expect, honestly, the same thing from the safeties this year. I think I'm going to go 10 out of 10 because I think this is the best safety room in the Big 12, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I had the exact same thoughts. I think this is a 10. I just think the starting duo of Teo and Rabbit Evans, and then I think Jackson Benny is going to be a star as well from the little that we've seen. And then I also even think like Nate Tillman, they've said he's been very impressive in the spring, as well as Jelani Davis is also good. So we have so many talented players. We have such a good top two. I think Teo will end the year in conversations for best safety in college football. Maybe not very best, but like top 5, I think he'll be in conversations.
Yeah. Like Caleb Downs number 1, and then, next year, Teo could be there.
Exactly. I really think he could, just with the speed. He has such a good feel for the game. I'm really excited about this safety room, so that's a 10 for me.
I sound like a broken record, but I think I lied earlier. This is a 10. I agree. Of course, Teo he's a real tough guy. For those who know, you know what I'm talking about. He's the true tough guy. Rabbit Evans, I mean, I think I heard something you said earlier this year, Tanner, that he might have more eligibility, which is insane because of the JUCO stuff, which I'm super excited for that. But then we talked about those guys a lot. Just the depth this team has. It's young. This group is young, but some of the highest recruits the Utah's had in Brock Fano Moana. I hope I'm saying that right. I doubt it. I mean, Nate Tillman. I love Nate Tillman. He's one of those guys. Tape when he committed to Utah, high 3-star, out of Texas. I love it, and so it's one of those things where I'm really excited for this room. They're a 10 out of 10. It's the best room in the defense. Having Teo and Rabbit, it's going to be great.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the defense overall. I think really it's like the top level talent here, I think, is the best in the Big 12. Like, I think there's really no doubt about that. I think everybody expects Utah to have, nationally elite defense again this year, be at the top of the Big 12 as far as defensive rankings go again. The only really flaw that I feel like could, bump this down is that depth at defensive tackle. Some of these guys are young, and especially at DT, you need to have a certain size to be able to play at a Power 5 level that it's hard for true freshmen to get there that quickly. And so for me, while I think the ceiling is obviously a 10, I'm going to go a 9, just because there is the one area of glaring weakness that I think could potentially hold us back a tiny bit, but it's really close to a 10. I'm going to go 9 out of 10 overall for the defense.
Yeah, exact same for me. Right there with you at 9.
I'm a 9 as well. I mean, to kind of talk a little bit about it, the defense last year, we were two more scores a game from having 10 wins because of our defense last year. And we're returning a lot of production. Obviously, the defensive tackle, like Tanner said, is the biggest question. But I said it before, I'll say it 1,000 times. Morgan Scalley and the defense, they will routinely rebuild that defensive tackle room. When Starlu Tulele was drafted, who knew was going to step up? But they did. When everyone leaves, it always happens. There's always that one guy. Nobody on a 2 years ago. Then he came in as a true freshman, and this man is a star. Would that be Carson Kafusi this year? Who knows? That could be it. But I think this defense as a whole is the strongest in the Big 12, and I think Tanner was right on where the only reason it's not a 10 is because the lack of depth in the defensive tackle room.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching the show, and we'll see you next week.